Patrick Johnston of the Province and Post Media joins us. He covers the Canucks for the Bugle.
The Daily Bugle?
It's been a while since I've called it a Bugle.
Yeah, it's true.
Poll question. You worried about the Canucks?
Ooh, yeah, I think I am now.
Mm.
I've been trying to be a bit more sort of
pragmatic.
Pragmatic. And there's just like, to me, the thing that was the most concerning on Tuesday was you get that Höglander goal, it's 2-1, and immediately you have a defensive disaster. And even the second Hughes goal, 5-3. Like, it's probably not going to happen.
Right.
And then you have an immediate defensive disaster.
So true.
That's what I think more than anything is what stood out to me. And I know, I mean, obviously not on the road, but I can tell you, having spent some time with Rick Tocchet now, that was just, I mean, he doesn't have any hair to pull out.
Right.
He did.
That was Tuesday night, but writ large, what worries you?
But that to me was the sort of the nutshell of everything, that they're just finding little mistakes all over the place all the time. And you look back to the road trip at the beginning of March, when they were in Anaheim, they beat LA and they beat Vegas, and they looked like, okay, they've turned the corner, right? And a lot of that was playing smart, diligent hockey, and they've just lost their way on that again. And that to me is, I also think a lot about Jim Rutherford before the season, saying everything has to go right for us to make playoffs. Well, they made the playoffs, right? A lot of things did go right, but even then, they knew in their heart of hearts that this was a good team, not a great team, and now they're showing the warts of a good team and not the warts of a great team, and that it's just the little things here and there. PD struggles, whatever the cause of them are. The list is there, just sort of thing after thing after thing, and nothing in particular, just the consistency of the inconsistency.
But they've changed too. They've changed, like, PJ's not just, like, I'm so confused by this team. They had a complete personality change about a month ago. Apropos of what? Like
2 months.
I mean, they've stopped scoring goals. They've started to defend to score to win games.
Yeah.
After dominating in every way, shape, and form up until January 22nd, they would just run roughshod over you.
Yeah.
So what the hell is going on?
Well, I think there is a bit of a paper tiger element, right? Like, they were scoring at such a crazy rate. We knew they were not going to continue to score. You're right. They have doubled down defensively. I mean, that was the thing I was hanging everything on, was that, listen, they're not giving up goals, but if they're going to defend as badly as they did on Tuesday, and I don't think that is the true story. I do think in general they have been a very good defensive team, and if you are looking for the one bright light, it is that you can lean on that, and that's what matters. But the scoring thing, you're right, like, they're not driving the net. You want to
not shooting, they're not shooting the puck.
As well as sort of Vasily Podkolzin is doing lots of things. He's not taking the puck to the net, and that in many ways is not what Tocchet wants, right? Like, he wants the basics. They talk about the staples. That's the sort of foundation of everything you do. But what they want is go from there. And Quinn Hughes, obviously last night was pushing the tempo. We've seen a lot of nights where JT Miller, the way he does it, that sort of brute force version of it, has been trying to do that. PD has had moments, but really has not. And that to me is the overall. I think you're right on that. Like, the personality change is something. Listen, they talked a lot about, and I believe it, about sort of how worn out they were in February. And when I talked to Miller about this I think it was last week, he even highlighted, listen, all our stars were at the All-Star break, right? Like, we were doing stuff. We didn't get that mental break. He wasn't blaming it, but it was just the reality. And then they played a ton of hockey in February. Now, like, it's kind of, you're now in April, like, it's the playoffs are here. It's kind of put up or shut up. And I don't think they're asking anyone to feel sorry for them or anything like that. But, they better go win in Arizona. I mean, but they better go win on Saturday in LA. Otherwise, they've lost 3 of 4, and all of a sudden, if they have a bad result in either of these two games, you're still looking at a really poor run with 10 or 2 weeks, I guess, to go until the playoffs.
Demko, Lindholm, or guys who might be playing through things. Roenick, maybe even Pettersson.
Mm-hmm.
Which individual are you most concerned about right now?
Pettersson, I think. Just the lack of production. Pointless in 7 of 9 now.
Crazy.
And I think rightly, somebody said, well, when was the last time he did? Well, he was the third start of the month in January, right? Like, he's done lots of stuff. He just somehow hit the wall. We remember he signs a contract and he had a couple of great games and we're like, oh, okay, that's all it was. He was just feeling emotionally weighed down by everything. And to me, it's so obviously more than that. Like, he's lacking confidence in his shot. I don't think he's dealing with anything in that realm, but you look at the times he double clutches on the power play, right? Like, it's not even not willing to let the one-timer off the right side go, which is, I think, a shot that has left the station. Like, that's not an option that's going to happen anymore. I'd like to see him in the bumper as a side note, but just anytime the puck comes to him, he's just thinking off the shot. And there's something, whether it's confidence, maybe it's just that simple. It seems crazy for a guy who's been so confident for so much of his life. But maybe it's a confidence issue. Anyway, the fact that he is so unwilling to let that shot go, or so reluctant, I guess is the better word. So reluctant. That's sort of everything. I think Demko's going to be fine. I mean, the fact he's on the road trip is a great sign. Lindholm, he is or he isn't going to be a factor. Like, at least he wasn't hurting you, but at the same time, he wasn't doing anything. That's been a real dud of an acquisition. Everyone knows that at this point. But Pettersson's in the lineup. He's going to be there. You need him to be. And if he's not going to be, you're in big trouble.
I like your idea, by the way.
In 13 games since he signed the contract, 8 of them pointless.
I like your idea of the bumper, because Miller passing it to him a la Bo Horvat seems pretty reasonable to envision, I think, isn't it? And then maybe you put Garland on the other side to help set everybody up.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think that there's things they've gotten away from. Like, I think the sort of notion of Miller with Joshua and Garland was a nice one, but I think, like, Miller and Besser were having a great season together. Like, put them back together. And Garland and Pettersson looked like they had something. Put them back together. Joshua can help out another line. Like, that. There is a bit of overthinking, it felt like, on that. But on the power play, like, get those guys close together. Pettersson's not going to shoot on the right flank. You got to do something else. And the idea of him being a threat over there is, I think teams are almost, they've boxed him out anyway. He hasn't. Get him near the net. Get him in tight. Get him shooting close. Get him getting that shot off. Try something else. Like, that power play at least is sort of kind of going again. But I think you need to juice it more.
What's your sense on what they're going to do with Demko? We're pulling everybody on that too, on the return to play protocol here, and what do you need out of him before the playoffs?
Well, I think you need to, 3 starts. I don't know. He's clearly he was on the ice yesterday, so that was a good sign. They're not skating. They're in Arizona today, not skating. Let me just see if I can get the actual media calendar up, if it's up yet. You just kind of parse it out. You know that they're going to be off tomorrow.
Practice Friday.
Practice Friday in LA. So, like, maybe he gets a practice
Sunday
Friday.
practice.
I don't see him playing until, maybe, he probably doesn't play Monday against Vegas. Maybe it's early next week. Maybe it's midweek next week against Arizona at home. Then you're in Edmonton, then it's home Calgary, then it's in Winnipeg. And I have a hard time imagining, maybe he ends up playing all the last 4 games of the season, something like that. Because we're in that window now. Like, he's eligible to come off LTI on Saturday. But like I said, I think they're going to want a few more. He hasn't even had a practice, right? He'll probably get practice tomorrow. We'll see. If he has practice tomorrow, then you're feeling optimistic about Monday, I guess. But if he's not a full participant, you're obviously looking into later next week.
On goaltending, should they have pulled DeSmith early on Tuesday and come back with him here against Arizona?
No, I don't think you gain anything from that. I think you've leaned on him heavily anyway. He's played a lot. I think whether he had a period or two off isn't going to give him any sort of better, isn't going to set him up any better physically to play Wednesday in Arizona. I think you stick with your plan. Seelovs is going to be fine. And the goaltending was not the issue last night.
Is there any?
You're allowed to be wrong.
Yeah, sure. That's why we're here.
Oh, well, no, it's just all you have to do is pluck off a few wins here and you're going to win the division.
Yeah.
You have put yourself in a position now where you're going with a guy who has played 6 NHL games against an Arizona. I would have preferred the veteran guy tonight, especially when it was clear early that he wasn't going and that your team was unlikely to win. But that's just me.
Yeah, I mean, Shilos has this propensity to rise in big opportunities. So
he has played well in the NHL duty. He has
and in the world
received,
and with a lot of pressure in the world. So
sure, fair enough.
To me, the story is about the defensive play in front of him. What happens in front of him will define everything, right? Like the goalie is kind of material on this. Like the first couple goals weren't on to Smith, right? Like they were just complete mess. There's maybe the goalie plays, the puck where he plays the puck back in front of himself. I mean, that's on to Smith, but that's bad luck. I think it was at the fourth goal that was kind of, in the end, they did not lose last night because of the goalie, and I don't think they would lose tonight because of the goalie. It'll come down to how they play defensively, and they've been playing well defensively, and so there's no reason to think that. I'm not terribly concerned about it.
In case of emergency break glass, what happens if they lose again here?
Well, that's what I mean. Like now you ain't got time to bleed.
What
if you lose this one, you put Edmonton squarely back in this thing.
Yeah.
What does Rick Tocchet have to do? Other than just begging on his knees to some of his star players to be better, to be more impactful.
He's already kind of tried. To me, putting Joshua and Garland with Miller was a bit of a break glass moment. Like that to me was going, well, these guys, we know these wingers are going to work, and this center has been working, so maybe the three of them will work. That there was a little bit of throwing stuff at the wall. Going away from lines that had been working. Or have worked out, well for you in the past. I think these are kind of already at that point. I don't know what else you could do. You've tried rotating stuff around. I think you're probably mad at Zadorov for that hit last night. But I don't think, other than your guys needing to figure it out. I mean, this has been such a sort of a player-driven story in terms of the internal culture, like I wrote about last week, that these guys believe in each other and they trust each other, and they've been pushing each other. And a lot of the season, that's been the story. And now it's a big test for them. He's got to find a way more than anything to get these guys firing on the same page, whether it's they believing in each other again, because like you said, Blake, they were running roughshod over teams because I think they were feeling very, very, very confident for a lot of the season.
I'm not saying don't play defensively tonight, because of course you want to play defensively, but this is a team that lets you play.
Do they have any other options?
Yeah,
here?
they do. They have an option to say,
let's go run and gun with a bottom six that has combined for like 8 points since the All-Star game. Is that
this is a team that lets you run and that lets you gun? So do you try to revive the first half Canucks here? Is that your path to victory as much as it is to try to lock it down?
I mean, so you guys just nailed it there. So much of the story in the first half was that everybody was scoring, and now nobody's scoring.
But
and like this was also the thing we knew at the deadline was like, you look at the sort of bottom six and you're like, can you make it better? And when you were really going fully all in, I think that was the focus that they've said, listen, we've got to find a couple more guys in there. But once you secured Pettersson and all of a sudden became this a three-year project, like the priority of doing that immediately shifted to being, let's see what we can do this year, and then we'll build off that. I found myself thinking a lot about like the 92, like 93 Canucks, the two teams that were very good, won the division, but weren't quite there yet. And trying to think about those teams and the tweaking you end up doing with rosters constantly. And look what happened. They get to the final in 94. And I think we're, hopefully, I think for the Canucks' sake, for the fans' sake, that's where they're at. I mean, obviously, people want it to be 94 or 2011, what have you.
Mhm.
But realistically, you're in the kind of preparation window for all that, and it is nerve-wracking right now, perhaps. But you kind of got to look at the path that they're trying to follow.
I think that's a fair shout. That the more this goes on, I think the more everybody contemplates a first-round loss in the playoffs.
That's the thing. But I think people only wanted. Not only wanted. I think people were going to be satisfied as long as they won a playoff round. But that is really in question right now.
Well, look at 03, right? Like, we choked. Like, they don't want to be in that scenario. There's a lot of fans who do remember that. And like, that team was top of the world in January 2003, and they fell off a cliff. And there's obviously a lot of stories about that.
Mhm.
And I suggest people listen to Scott Rintoul's fabulous podcasts. But like, there are things. I look at the past of how this team, where things have gone and where stumbles have happened with great teams of strong Canucks teams of the past, and I can't help but think about them in the current context.
Can I just litigate something with my partner here? Well,
let me get my
they
gavel.
Weren't running and gunning in the first half. They were just converting a huge percentage of the shots and opportunities that they got. This hasn't been a run and gun team at all. It's been a highly efficient, highly productive offensive team in the early going, and a team where the goals have dried up in the second half. But they've been a defensive club for the entirety of Rick Tocchet's tenure here. And
they were a gun team.
What's that?
They were a gun team without the run, is what he's saying. Although they scored off the rush more then than they do now.
No, early in the year, the metrics were all nothing off the rush from this team. Nothing.
Everything, they were
everything in the half court, everything on the power play, because that's the way they play, and that's the way Tocchet demands that they play.
And they were creating shots in the slot.
They don't have that to go to. Exactly.
Yeah. They already been creating those.
They don't have a let's pick up the tempo here game to go to.
Yeah.
These are the bad boy Pistons. They want to play the low scoring, ugly, gritty, grimy games. They're not the Showtime Lakers. They have never been.
Well, are they too rigid then? In what is Rick Tocchet too rigid?
That is a good question.
Is the lack of shots coming from the superstars because he's not giving these guys enough license, enough leash?
Or I mean, that's it. When teams are struggling, I think generally it is a case of coaches overthinking it. In general, we have not seen Rick Tocchet overthink things here. But like I said, some of these line changes feel a bit like that. By the way, it only took us 17 minutes before Matt had to make a basketball comparison. So kind of amazing.
Well, it is NCAA tournament time, Patrick, as you know. No, but I mean, we're talking half court. No, but I think Blake's question is an astute. I think Blake's question is an astute one.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I think is that these mostly wingers just have not done a good enough job at puck retrieval and creating possession in the offensive zone like they were early in the season. Like, think of how often we were marveling at even guys all the way down to Phil DiGiuseppe at how often they were getting in on the forecheck, making a hit, winning a puck battle, winning a board battle, wall work, all of those things. It was uncanny how successful they were in that game. And, over the course of an NHL season, those guys get paid too. And I think you've had a lot of defensemen and a lot of teams that have probably said, look, here's what Vancouver's going to try and do. So we got to make sure we get back on those pucks quickly, move them quickly. Don't give them an opportunity to come down and staple people and create the sort of board battles that they've been successful in doing. And frankly, guys, the counterattack system in just about every sport usually only gets you so far. You usually have to have the talent of people with the scoring object in their possession, making plays to get to the mountaintop. So I think this has worked very well for the Canucks and the type of team that they have had to date. But if they're showing cracks in the armor now, well, I'm not entirely surprised, because I don't necessarily think this team was as good as first place in the NHL, first place in the
I
Western
miss
Conference.
breakaways, guys. I miss 2-on-1s.
Right.
Remember those plays?
Mhm.
Remember teams used to
Hey,
do
did you not get your fill with Bruce? We had
Right.
a lot of 2-on-1s in both directions.
But good teams get breakaways. Good teams get 2-on-1s, and this
But
team
they're not
just
fast
doesn't.
either, Blake. Like that's
Yeah.
two of their best, the three best goal scorers are not fast.
Incidentally, to flush the rush and the run and gun stuff out, as of Christmas,
The gun.
they were second in the league in rush goals, but they were
on
last
the fewest chances.
on the fewest chances.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's the conversion and the PDO fade.
I mean, you want to look at there. I can think of a 2-on-1 from last night. Ilya Mikheyev races, actually gets moving, racing away. Who jumps up and joins him? Quinn Hughes gets it over Quinn Hughes, and the puck trickles. Like Quinn Hughes of all people, the puck just slithered away from him, and that's where they're at right now.
Hey, Ilya Mikheyev may have their most rush chances. He's the guy that comes to mind when I think of all alone or with speed in the zone, creating something. And that's a sad comment because he's got like one goal and
that little sweep
what's it,
one-timer
42?
he took last night off the heel, kind of meekly onto the goal. Like, bear down for F's sakes. Like, honestly.
All right. We're fresh out of time, but thank you for yours. Fun discussion as always.
Always. Great time.
We'll see
Thanks
what
for
the
having
next
me.
week brings.
We'll see. Yeah. Take care, guys.
Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.